Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Justin Simpson. He is the founder of Here Now AI. He is a AI advisor and publisher. And as I said, he's the co-founder of Here Now AI. Welcome to the show, Justin.
Thank you very much. It's very nice of you to have me on.
You are welcome. Welcome to the show, Justin. Welcome to India in this online form. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are discussing right now. We'll be talking about demystifying AI for everyday we use with you. But before that, let me understand a bit more about you for the audience. You are a former investment banker and fund manager, and now you have made this AI your mission. So help us understand with a bit of your background so that and your journey till now, so that people know who they are listening to.
Thank you. It's an interesting journey because I spent 20 years with Morgan Stanley in finance and then 7 years running my own uh, hedge fund. And in all of that time, what I was doing was based on financial mathematics that is the early precursor to what we think of as AI now, machine learning, neural networks, and so forth. And so in that career, I needed to spend time explaining to non-technical users what we were up to with
Right.
with research, with money, etc. And so I had a passion for that and felt that I had that capability. And then when I moved to San Francisco, where I'm in the heart of AI land now, and then AI through ChatGPT burst onto the public scene and public awareness, I felt a compelling need to take those skills and apply them to AI because I'm very concerned. Here in San Francisco, you see what I call the tech divide, which is the few getting extremely wealthy and a lot of people being left behind. And I think with AI, that's going to happen faster uh, in terms of skills and the ability to benefit from this incredible revolution being pushed into fewer and fewer hands if we don't take the trouble to tell people what AI is, what it can do for them, and encourage them, give them accessible on-ramps to find out how it can improve their lives. And so that's why we founded Here Now AI. And our mission is really to use this wonderful technology to help people improve their lives at work, at home, for fun, and try and make it accessible and demystify it so that it's broadly accessible as opposed to kept in this narrow, complex field.
Right, right, Justin. Now let's understand this from the different aspects. Now you talk about AI divide. Now, what is this AI divide? Why is this AI divide important? Why do you want to everyone to know about AI?
Yeah, so it's a good question because if you take just here in San Francisco, which, as I say, is the heart of the AI center, there are still small businesses that I talk to every day who feel that AI is for the big guys. It's not for them. It's something that they don't understand and feel uncomfortable about. And yet, when I talk to them about it, AI is the most democratizing, powerful tool that's been placed in the hands of small business. And if they can get excited about it and then experiment with it and see that benefit, it really can benefit them, as opposed to the AI divide that I'm concerned about is that the big get bigger and wealthier and the small get left behind. So if you can persuade a small business owner, for example, that he or she has now a marketing department, a communications department, a customer service department, which aren't really departments, they're uh, processes that are created using AI, but that can leverage a small business, it's a fantastic way for them to expand their markets, to talk to more people, to talk to people in different languages. And so that the small businesses that I've talked to have adopted that, have begun to find the benefits, but there's still this great divide between folk who haven't yet, despite all the hype and the news, haven't yet begun to embrace AI because they don't feel it's somehow for them. And that's what I'm trying to tackle.
Okay, okay. Because you are at the same time talking about non-technical users. Who are these non-technical users? You see, the history of mankind, not everyone was a warrior, not everyone was a trader, not everyone is a business person, and not everyone is in the stock market. and not everyone wants to be in the mainstream. In fact, a lot of people in the mainstream, they want to go live a life which is amongst nature. So I want to understand in that backdrop about non-technical users. Why do you want them to get into the mainstream of this scheme of AI things?
Yeah, when I talk about non-technical users, I mean um, folk who might get onto the internet and use Google search, or who might have some technology in their lives, but they view this new AI stuff as too complicated. And when I say non-technical, I'm trying to find people who would use a text, happily send a text to their friend, or use WhatsApp or some sort of communications device. Anybody who has those skills can use AI. Chatting to ChatGPT is as simple as texting a friend. It's just that that friend happens to have a lot of knowledge and a lot of
Right,
expertise,
right,
and a field, wonderful, broad, open fields of content that they want to share.
right. Absolutely. Chat GPT or any other Perplexity and, you know, Anthropic's Claude, so many things. You have hundreds of them. So I want to understand then, you know, people who do not like, there was this whole thing about automation. People, lot of businesses became part of this automation process, and the human factor was gone. Now there is something bigger has come in, and this is almost like taking away the human factor out of a lot of things. A lot of people are fearful about their jobs, and it's a fact that a lot of people are losing their jobs to AI. This I understand. In the history of mankind, these things, new technology will come, and a lot of churning will happen. But in terms of adoption, why should anyone or everyone adopt AI? And if you talked about the divide, it is only just three or four major players who are actually owning this superpower of artificial intelligence in terms of ownership. Don't you think it will further increase dependence on just a few players who you do not know? There is all this whole debate about AI and its problems that it can create. Even, you know, Geoffrey Hinton, godfather of AI, Sam Altman, even the, you know, founder of AI, OpenAI. So all these people are hinting. I want to understand in this backdrop. As a simple person, I would say if I don't need it, I won't need to go to that down that road.
So you mentioned a lot of interesting topics there, and let me start with the first one that you mentioned.
Right,
Somebody who might be fearful of losing their job to AI. So out here in Silicon Valley at Stanford, the university has created something called the Institute for Human-Centered Artificial Intelligence, and it's a research institute dedicated to finding ways to make AI help humans rather than hurt humans. And one of the professors who's been in AI for a long time, Fei Li, said the following, which I think is very important. You won't lose your job to AI, but you might lose your job to somebody who knows how to use AI. And what she means by that is if you take a knowledge worker, so there's a separate application of AI in
right,
agriculture and machinery, etc. And I'm not looking at that field, although it's an interesting field in and of itself. I'm looking at the knowledge worker field, somebody who's sitting in an office doing work, and they should be, I believe, thinking about what can I do to make my job more efficient, to make myself more effective by leveraging these AI tools, not saying I don't want AI, it's not for me, it's for the big guys, and then suddenly one day be surprised when somebody who is leveraging AI becomes more effective. So there have been a number of studies, consultants here, where they separated consultants into two groups and said, okay, you have to use AI to do your daily job, and you can't
right.
use AI, and then measured effectiveness. And the ones who leveraged AI found themselves about 40% more effective. So it's not a question in that instance of losing jobs. It's a question of leveraging these technologies to make knowledge workers more efficient. And in terms of home use, in terms of other things, there's many other applications of AI um, that are not revolutionary in terms of job creation, but are actually helpful in terms of just your daily life. But if I could then tackle the second issue, which you talked about concentrated knowledge in the hands of three or four big players, and you mentioned a couple of the big names. Again, those big names are out there, and of course they have big brand awareness and marketing power, so they will get into homes or offices more easily, more readily than smaller names. But to be clear, if you dig into it, there are many players, some of whom you will have heard of and some of whom you will not have heard of, some of who are keeping the code to themselves, and some of whom are doing what's called open source, which is writing the code for AI and then making it available to anybody who can and wants to use it. So I don't believe that it's settled that there are only going to be three or four players. And the more people that are out embracing this technology and using it and just getting a minor understanding, I don't think, for example, that you need to know how an internal combustion engine works to drive a car. And then there will be petrol heads who will have a debate about this brand versus that brand, which one's faster, which one has more horsepower. And certainly, if you want to dig into the field of AI, is Google better than Anthropic, is better than ChatGPT? There's always that margin. But for most people, it's not that complex. It's just try it, use it, find an easy, accessible on-ramp. Now, we've built this newsletter. I publish a newsletter to 17,000 subscribers who are all non-technical folk who want to try and bring this into their lives. So every week we hope, our mission is that every reader finds one thing that they want to try. That's AI. It could be to help them at work, but it could also be just an interesting application to organize your life or your calendar or something like that, and just get the feel for what this technology can do. And that will then spark the creativity of, gosh, how can I use this to improve my career, to make myself more useful at work, to think about a process that I can leverage. There's a research report that came out today that gives, for example, places where users, after a survey, a use and then a survey, find that AI is good. And for example, they don't think it's very good at decision making or critical thinking, but they do think it's very good at data analysis. They think it's very good at language translation. And if I could just take a sidebar, language translation is huge. It means that everybody can speak, not every language, but everybody can speak the major languages. And not only in written translation form, but you may have seen these products in which you will make a video in whatever language you choose. And within minutes, you could have that same video with lip sync. So it looks, and it's with the voice that sounds like you in any number of major languages. And I think this is a very powerful effect that's going to unleash creativity for somebody for whom, for example, English is not their home language, now has no reason not to put out content into the English language world if they have good ideas. They don't need to be burdened anymore by a lack of language skills.
Right, Justin. Now, what about the pitfalls? I'm not talking about the job market here. What about the pitfalls? Do you also talk about that? Do others ask you about this amongst your even non-technical people, that okay, these are the pitfalls that people are talking, that this is something which we do not know. We are walking onto a road, we know some things about now, but we do not know the monster down the road, or are there no monsters at all?
No, I believe that there are things that we need to consider. I think that there are big picture issues, and then there are smaller issues. So let me start with the smaller first, because we're focused on encouraging people in daily use. AI is not perfect. If you ask ChatGPT a question, you're not guaranteed to get a perfect answer, which is why it's important to experiment about your own views about things that it does well versus it doesn't. Calculations or computation is not a great skill. It might come up with what are called hallucinations, which it just invents stuff. So you need to be able to check your results. But that, I believe, will get addressed over time. These models become dramatically better each time a release is there. So, but be aware of them in the smaller sense. In the larger sense, I think people are concerned, as you mentioned, about job loss, and that's very important because certain jobs will be automated. If a job is nothing except following a steady, repetitive process with no creativity or insight or human judgment, it's likely that it is going to be subject in some way to replacement, which is why I'm encouraging everybody to move up the curve where they can use this as a research assistant. Everybody now has a free college-educated intern, right? And they've got to use that. Intern doesn't have skills or knowledge about what you do at the office, but he or she can be taught. Now, think about it that way. And so don't just sit there and wait until the intern takes your job. Use the intern to make you better at your job. The larger issues that I think society needs to address, and that are being addressed in some ways by the Institute for Human-Centered Intelligence or the Institute for Global AI Governance, relate to the following. AI can be biased. AI can have
Okay.
inherently it's trained on a large amount of material, and as we know, out there in the world, in the data that it's trained on, there are unpleasantnesses, there are political biases, there are racial biases, etc. And so it's important to put governing frameworks around AI that it doesn't actually make society more polarized, more biased. It doesn't actually discriminate effectively against certain groups or peoples because of the knowledge, inherent knowledge. So there's a field of study looking at that. There is, there's concern um, about will AI effectively take over society. I don't have a view on that. I'm thinking short term, hence the name
Right.
here now AI. About what are these applications that we can use now? And I have a very positive mindset because I believe that pretty much anybody should be using these. Anybody who can text and communicate via phone should be experimenting with these tools. And so I tend to be an optimist. But I do acknowledge that there are risks and concerns out there.
Right. What about privacy, data privacy, all sorts of privacy? Because now, AI is getting integrated into our cell phones also. So everything is now open, and there are cases. It's like you earlier on with Alexa, that your voice is getting outside your box and it's going to others, and so here it's a bigger world here. How do you tackle this issue? How do you tell people that this aspect is something you should not be worried about? Who will tell about this part?
Yeah, and it's a very good question because there are a number of different pieces of it, but basically humanity as a large, or internet using humanity, surrendered their privacy some time ago, and there's a minority of folk who are determined to hold on to it. But anybody who's used Google has fed their data into the machine, and we know that
Right.
already, pre-AI, there is way too much information, personal information about us that's out there. Now, AI has that same capability. In other words, if you just ask it questions, and with ChatGPT or any of the others, it will use that data, the questions that you ask, to train itself. So
Right.
you need to be conscious of that. And if you're just asking it, how do I write an email to my aunt saying, wishing her a happy birthday in a different language or whatever, that's probably not going to change your life. But if you're asking it something deeply personal about work, or in your home life, there are ways that you can say, do not use my data for training. And anybody can find these ways. It's not terribly complicated. I think when it comes to the next generation of AI, which is when it's embedded, as you just said, in my phone, in every device I have, these home pods like Alexa or the Apple equivalent, there one needs to be quite thoughtful about, is there data privacy? And you'll see, for example, just in the last couple of days, Google have released a new phone which has AI built in, and they did a
Right. Right.
demo and gave people some idea. I don't think they spent a lot of time focused on privacy. When Apple introduced the concept of what's going to be called Apple Intelligence, so they're calling it AI, but in their case, Apple Intelligence, they did spend a lot of time explaining how certain amounts of data would be used just on your phone, wouldn't even go to Apple. Certain amounts of data would need to go to Apple, but into a very private way. And then if the Apple AI engine can't answer the question, it will ask you, okay, Justin, are you okay if I send this off to ChatGPT? So again, that might drive people in different directions depending on their concerns about that. I have two children who long ago viewed their data as sort of public property, so they're
Right.
not particularly concerned. I, on the other hand, more traditional, don't want my data necessarily shared everywhere. So again, it's a personal preference, but I think there is consciousness about it, and there is information about it, and it is important that folks should think about it when they're using AI to help them with particularly sensitive topics.
Right. Right. Now, what about human intelligence? If we talk about intelligence, do you think AI is making us dumber or smarter?
That is a brilliant question, I have to say, because like all excellent questions, the answer is both. And
Right,
then what I mean by that is, again, there's a lot of data coming out now because schools have taken different views towards AI, but some schools have embraced it and then made it available to students and said, look, you're going to use this stuff anyway. We might as well do it in a school context. And some have found that those students who use AI to come up with answers, when you take the AI away, aren't as good at getting to answers.
right,
Whereas some have found if they've used the AI in the correct way in terms of leveraging human intelligence, they're getting better answers and making those students more robust. So if you just stay with that experiment, if you like, thought experiment for a while, should a student be given AI to make them smarter, or will it actually just make them less intelligent? You may come from a generation, or you may not, where we bridged the big divide about should we have calculators in maths exams.
right,
And there was a school of thought that said this is ridiculous. It's going to, take away that core competence in doing math. And there was a school that said, look, this is a new technology. We should be using it, leveraging it, and therefore students can get more done in a 3-hour math exam with a calculator than without. It's hard for people today to believe that that was ever a debate, but it was.
right, right,
And there may be folk now who can't be or aren't as skilled at doing long division or integrating by first principles or derivatives calculus. I did calculus the old-fashioned hard way, but they are brilliant at using the outputs of calculus in designing solutions for problems, or their lives are not. I use this analogy of a car. People who don't know how an internal combustion engine works are as competent or as capable as people who do. So I think, again, there's a thoughtfulness here. I am very excited about the ability to go in and ask about it. I'm reading a book. I can go and interrogate about a period of history, learn more about it. Somebody makes a reference to some scientific principle that I don't understand, or I need a refresher on because it was a long time ago. I can go and get that. That's Chat GPT, or AI is making me smarter in that context. If it's done in the wrong way, you're right. That if you're just saying, well, don't bother to ever write emails anymore, don't bother to think about the output, just plug it in the box and the box will give you an answer and use that, and that's good enough, then you have the risk of it making people dumber. So it's a great question, and the answer, of course, is a complex one.
yeah, you said both. So you see, if you look at even the phones itself, nowadays a lot of people are moving towards basic phones, or the dumb phone that we call it, and it's become a big market. It means I read those numbers. It was $1 billion or $10 billion. I don't exactly remember, but it's a big market and it's growing. And people are wanting to move away from the smartphones, which is not making them any smart. They want to get their life back. I want to understand then, will how does humanity save its intelligence? When we talk about both, then some part is correct. How do we do that? Do we move on to the dumb phone? Do we move on to a dumb version of AI and just go to it only when we have intelligent questions that enhances our intelligence? We just do that work and move away, rather than getting it embedded in our beings and becoming perhaps dumber in the longer run.
It's, again, it's a good question, and it doesn't have an easy answer. I have a smartphone that has a number of AI apps. Yesterday, I went into the garden and took a picture of a plant, which it then told
Right,
me what was wrong with the plant, how I should care for it. I could do that same thing to ask, what is this plant? And I'm not a green thumb guy. In fact, quite the opposite. So I found it very useful to have that stuff at my fingertips, or Perplexity to ask a question about the news, or research, do research on a new product that I'm thinking of buying, or something like that. I find that very natural. And I think I understand there's always been the, on Walden Pond, or go back in literature and history, there's always been a segment of society that wants to walk away from technology and go back to the simple life. And I respect people who want to do that. I'm not saying that every single human individual needs to be doing this stuff. I think that there's a perfectly valid way to approach society to say, I want as little technology as I need in order to survive, thrive in my own way. I'm just talking about folk who aren't in that category, who are open to using whatever tools make them better at work or more efficient at home, or in some way open to improving their lives, and just be aware of what these technologies are and how they might improve their lives by leveraging those technologies.
Absolutely. And when a person like you talk about the good stuff, and it is heartening because we learn about, and that is where it should be welcome. The problem is that the people who have a problem with themselves or the world itself, and that is where, if they want to use AI for negative uses, or maybe to control the world. Many people want to change the world, many people want to control the world, and that is where I guess every individual will have to look at it the way they want to, so that they are able to live the life. At the end of the day, it is a tool. But yes, when we talk about the good part, I also use AI and all the tools. I have tried several of them, and I have my own ways of looking, and it is helpful if you look at them. And there are great promises of AI. As you said, you go into the garden, in terms of gardening, in terms of farming, and so many other things. But one thing I wanted to again understand, in terms of creativity. You see, earlier when Quora came in, people were very excited because a lot of genuine answers were coming in. But a lot of times I feel that it is the bots who are writing those answers, and Quora seems to be almost flooded. That's my personal view, because nobody has given a concrete idea about it. Now you don't get genuine understanding about those things. The same way, now from Quora we have moved to something called Sora from by OpenAI, and they are creating videos which are like, and many people, it has been happening that people are now worried that why to create a movie when it can create a movie by just putting in a few words of text down there. How should people then understand? And you talk about that, in fact, AI can aid in your creativity. So I want to understand, how should we look AI and creativity at the same time?
Again, a great question. The world of creativity, if you think about it, is a spectrum, right? So on the one hand, you have people whose entire life is defined by creativity, and I have a partner at Here Now AI who's won Emmy awards for her creative content, and so she's very concerned, and her group of creative friends around her very concerned about AI's potential to damage. And there are jobs being lost in the creative field already. So some folk have just said, I'm going to continue to do this, and I'll write the way I do. I won't use AI. I'll keep going. And in the hopes that their voice is so unique, right? And there will always be creatives, human creatives, who are that unique that they can afford to do that. But there are some who are perhaps doing piecework for a corporation to write marketing material that isn't Nobel Prize winning or the cutting edge of literature. And those folk have a risk of being replaced by an AI, because it's frankly not that important that the creativity is not the cutting edge. So my partner Laurie has said, I'm going to be a creative, but an AI leveraging creative, and she is making sure that where she uses it, it's to make her better at what she does. She's faster. It can give her ideas. When you're stuck as a creative, you can say, give me 10 ideas, or whatever the case may be, and use it to make yourself a more creative. At the other end, there are people who will be damaged by it, no question. I have a son who's a documentary filmmaker, and he's very concerned about, as you point out, Sora, and the ability to create these incredible videos.
Right.
But I encourage people who are on the other end of the spectrum, like me, to go and play with those tools and prompt Sora or prompt Midjourney or whatever particular ChatGPT, whatever vehicle you're on, to draw you a picture. And you'll find that it's not as easy as all that to come up with a brilliant artwork, the same stuff that you see, the brilliant movies that you see on the internet, or the brilliant pictures that you see, because prompting has become an art form of itself. Prompting and then reprompting and perfecting has become an art form in itself. So I think there's a lot of challenge, but creativity will evolve the same way creativity evolved when writing materials changed, when computers became available. I'm sure being an author when you had to do it in longhand is very different from being an author when you have a computer system with spell check and grammar check and all that other stuff. So there's an evolution in the creative process that's natural, and this is the next stage. But I do agree with you, for mediocre stuff, or middle of the road stuff, AI does offer a viable alternative, which is going to damage some of the jobs that aren't at the high value end of the spectrum.
Right, right, Justin. One last question I want to understand from you is, do you think AI or artificial intelligence itself is becoming dumber? It has learned all that it could till now with all the information, all the pages that humanity had, and now it is hungry. It has no data to crunch. So where will it is almost, will it become a dumb teacher who will continue to create or educate students who will become dumber by learning from a dumb teacher like the present stage AI, because it has got no other. Where will AI learn from? Help us understand. Do you think AI is becoming dumber and it will make us make dumb students out of it in the future?
Again, you're raising a very legitimate question, and I think, just if I can expand on it a little bit,
Right, right,
training of AI models is what you're talking about. And AI models,
right,
in order to benefit from this fantastic technology that's been developed, need data to teach them how to make connections between things, so that when you ask questions, they go back in and quickly access that data and work out what the connections are in such a way that they can give
right,
you an answer. And so if you put in a billion pages, you'll get one result. If you put in 100 billion pages, you'll get a second result. And at some point, there aren't enough pages left in the universe of every book, every website, every
right,
film, every piece. And so your question then is at that point, does AI sort of run out of steam because there's no more original content? And I think, again, it's a legitimate question, and I don't have a. I certainly see arguments on both sides. Can the people who are concerned that, as you say, AI will just run out of originality and stop being able to answer these questions, versus folk that say, well, look, there is AI will be able to generate enough of its own training data, and it'll become so much more efficient, etc., and so that the benefits will continue for some time. I don't think we're at a point yet when I've seen an answer that I've said is uh, worse than an answer from a previous iteration. I still think it's amazing each time a new release comes out, the exponential benefit of seeing better AI is overcoming what may be a legitimate problem sometime in the future. So I don't have a strong view, but I certainly think it's a legitimate concern.
right, right. You have answered it very, very. All the questions are not easy to answer, and that is where my job. Do as I said, I myself use AI. I myself understand the benefit, but my job is to get the best out of my guest and understand it for the audience, so that whatever I can answer their questions through whatever my understanding, and to get the best out of the guest. So AI is certainly a very important thing, and I'm sure a lot of things we'll just have to wait and see. But what I want to learn for the audience is what and how do you do things at Here Now AI?
So we look at apps that are coming out, models that are coming out all the time. And every week we select 3 or 4 that we think would benefit people to know about. And as I mentioned at the beginning, we think about improving your life at work, at home, or at play, which is just pure fun. And we put those 3 or 4 into a newsletter with links and what have you. And we try to pick apps that have either a free trial or a free or a tier that doesn't ever have cost if you're just experimenting with it. So it shouldn't be expensive or even cost anything to go and experiment with most of these. And the hope, as I say, is that every reader once a week picks one thing and say, oh, that's interesting, I'm going to go and have a look at that. I'll see if I can improve my CV. I'll see if I can organize my calendar better. I'm just looking at one at the moment that says you take a snapshot of your fridge and it tells you what your ingredients are and then gives you some suggested recipes. And it's
Right.
trying to decrease food waste, but also make sure that you're making the most of what you have. And so these are not all life changing. They're not all
Right.
revolutionary, although there's some things in there that are pretty amazing. But we're just trying to keep our audience of non-technical readers sort of aware of where things are going and what they might be able to use in their lives. And that's the main purpose of the newsletter.
Wonderful. There is much to learn from you about all these things, Justin, and I'm sure a lot of people would want to learn more from you, more about your company. So, what is the best way for them to do so?
Thank you. The easiest way is the website, which is www.hearnowai.com. And you can have a look at the past newsletters. You can subscribe. You can work out how to contact us. It's all there. So thank you very much.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me. All the best.
Thank you.